Glorious now before him arise. Christ the Lord is God.
All right. Good morning. This is Loss at Distance Education. This is MEL3E, grade 11 math for everyday life. I'm Pete. I'm your teacher, and welcome to week 6 of our 9-week course. So this morning we're still on Unit 3. We're starting a new topic, so that's on page 29. And we're actually going to talk about something that's kind of exciting, buying new and used vehicles. So we'll get to that. But first, I just want to maybe just mention here that given that we're just getting ready to wrap things up for the Christmas break, so there'll be 4 classes this week, and then we have a 2-week break. And then we'll come back and we have 3 more weeks of classes, and then you're done. Okay, so with that in mind, if you're thinking about sending in some key questions, it would be great to do that. Now, I know that this week, I don't know that the Express is running. You can always scan them and email them to me. You can fax them, or if you can just hand them in, and I won't get them till after the break, but then they'll be done, right? So definitely want to get going on those key questions. Okay, so at the end of this, if you have some of the key questions done, it'll be fine. We can work with you, and you can still get the credit. But if you want to get it straight away, if you want to get it like as part of this class, you're really going to have about half of them done at least by the time after the break. Okay. Otherwise, we'll put you in the IL, the independent learning part of it, and then you'll have the rest of the year to wrap it up. Okay. So here we go. Now, I think that's about it. Oh yeah, and you're going to need your Unit 4. Now, we might actually get to Unit 4 this week because we have 2 lessons to go, and these aren't really long lessons. So chances are really good that on Friday at least I'll kind of introduce Unit 4 and kind of give you a little preview of our last unit. Okay, so you will need that handout probably this week. Okay, so let's talk about buying new and used vehicles. Now, for a lot of people, this is their first big purchase. If you think about it, people get houses, certainly, but most young people, anyway, they're going to buy a vehicle. Now, for some of us in the north, and for me, certainly, my first big purchase was a snowmobile. So, but, it's the same idea, basically. It's something big. It's something that comes attached with some costs, and it's something that with our modern technology, we can do a lot of research and really be well informed before we make those purchases. Okay, so we're going to look at 2 different scenarios. One is buying new, and the other one's buying used. And there's advantages and disadvantages to both. So it's not, it's in an individual choice. And the whole idea of this course is to make sure that you have all the tools you need to make those choices, to make a list of what you need to know to make a really good decision there. Okay. So, and knowing what to expect really helps you here. Okay. So let's take a look then. This should be page, oops, I just lost the page. I just had it written there. So this is page 30. Unit 3, and that's lesson 14. So we're getting towards the end of Unit 3 here, and that's why I think we'll probably step into Unit 4 just near the end of the week. So When you're buying a new vehicle, and we're talking about vehicles, we're mostly talking about cars and trucks. Your snowmobile, your ATV will have some of this, but it'll be a little different. Okay, there'll be some fees that won't quite be there, or they'll be different, but it's basically the same process. Okay, so here's some things that you might find. The sticker price. If you go into, the GM dealer here in town, if you go into the Ford dealer here in town, you're going to wander around the lot, and hopefully you get to wander a little bit before a salesman I don't know how they do it here, whether the salesmen actually come out and then try and sell you something right there. In some places, yeah, you really can't do much browsing. They'll come running out. But you want to look at the vehicles. You look them over. They look really good. And then as you're walking around the vehicle kicking the tires, you see a sticker on one of the windows. Okay, and you look at that sticker and it has a list of all the options. So it's just the cost of the vehicle plus then it has air conditioning, which is, it's great. It has a seat massager on it. That's great. A remote starter, which is really handy, you know. And yeah, so it's all those nice things. It has a little cooler in the back to keep your stuff cool. Those are all things. And then it has a price for each one of those, and then it has a sort of a bottom line. That's the sticker price. Okay, now it's pretty typical that after the sticker price, when you get the paperwork, there are going to be all these other things. Okay, so delivery. Now, most big car manufacturers just charge a flat rate for delivery. Mostly, right? Now, I don't know. I've never heard of them making a surcharge for people in remote areas, but usually it's just a flat fee. It's like $900, somewhere around there, and that's delivery. And that's whether you get it, down in Toronto, and right next, like just 100 kilometers from the plant where they make some of these vehicles, or whether you get it, down in up in North Bay or something like that. So usually it's a flat thing. It's some money. Freight, I'm not really sure. That would sort of seem to be the same idea. Pre-delivery expenses, maybe there's some paperwork, maybe there's some financing charges or whatever the dealer incurs, or some charges that the dealer incurs. You know how it goes. They just think up something and tack it on there. Pre-delivery inspection, now that is actually something they do, and they make you pay for it, which is a little strange. They look over the vehicle, make sure there are no little scratches or dings, make sure it's shined up. They take all the wrapping off of the seats and stuff like that. That's a pre-delivery inspection. Of course, they're going to put some fuel in there and at that time and charge you an administration fee. Again, they're going to charge you a little a bit of money to fill out the paperwork so they can sell you a vehicle. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but anyway. And dealer prep, I think, is kind of along those lines. I guess the pre-delivery inspection, dealer prep, maybe they're separate things. Dealer prep was where they give it a nice shine, where they put the dealer decal on the back that you then have to peel right off if you don't want it. Where they might put some Scotch guarding on your seats, rust proofing, something like that. Okay, so there you are. Now, there's a fuel consumption tax for all new vehicles, and we call it the gas guzzler tax. At least that's what it was called when it first came in. It basically, if your vehicle's big enough to really be anything, there's an extra tax on it. The idea was that they wanted to encourage people to buy really small cars, which is great if you live in Toronto and everyone goes on the side streets, everyone goes like 30 kilometers an hour, and the longest drive you can make is about 10 kilometers. That's great to have a tiny little car with a tiny little motor in it. Up here, we all drive trucks or big cars, so we all pay this tax, I guess. Now, if the vehicle has air conditioning, there's a $100 tax. Well, that sort of makes sense. That there was a time when air conditioners had all sorts of deadly gases in them, or dangerous for the environment gases. Now that's all changed, but yet there's the tax still there. And then, of course, HST. You're going to pay HST on just about everything, but not quite everything. And that's where, the problems in this unit come up, where some stuff doesn't have GST. It's already included. So that's really what we're going to be looking at here. Now, they're going to give you some fuel, and they usually charge a fairly high price for that fuel. That's something you can negotiate, especially if you're going to take your vehicle back with you up to your community. From the dealer, you really probably want a full tank of gas, or at least, if you're picking it up, make sure that you're picking it up at a time when there's a gas station open nearby, right? So, because they usually only put about a half a tank in there, and they charge you quite a bit of money for it too. All right, let's see. Now, here's an example, and now just point out here the different things. So this is George is buying a new truck. Okay. And here's the total price. So the base price, this would have been on the sticker. So George would have gone out on the dealer lot, found himself a nice little truck, right? Okay, that's pushing things, isn't it, for $21,000? All right, I guess he'll have to have find himself a nice little car. Huh. So anyway, he found himself a nice little car, and then so then he goes inside and he says, "Yeah, I want this car. Name your price." And so then they list them all these things: $750 delivery charge, $100 air conditioner tax, the $75 fuel consumption tax. Again, was supposed to be for vehicles that had a certain fuel consumption, and it was exempt for smaller ones. And it's pretty hard to find one that's exempt. HST, which is 13%. Now, that's HST on all of these things. Those are taxable. The license fee, there's no tax on that, and the fuel has the tax built in. That's a hidden tax, right, which we talked about in the first unit. So watch stuff like that. The course material is pretty good about telling you which is subject to HST and which isn't. Okay, usually it's the thing, the license and the fuel, it isn't. So now they just want to know what the total purchase price is. All right, so here we go. So what they're going to do then is, the way they worked it out, I think it makes sense. They're going to work out the total cost of everything that doesn't have tax on it. Okay, so they're going to add it up. You could actually work out the tax on each thing, but I think it's less work to do it this way. So they added everything together. So it's the base price, the delivery, the air conditioner tax, and the gas guzzler tax, or whatever it is, fuel consumption tax, I guess is what they're calling it now. And then we use that trick where we're finding 113% of something, which tells you the amount, that total amount, including the tax. And that's for when you don't need to have to know what the tax was separately. And that makes sense for this question. Okay, you could just find 13% and then add that to the price before taxes. Perfectly fine way to do it. I'm not going to say anything about doing it that way. A lot of people would approach it that way. This is just a little shortcut, and it's the one that I use. Okay. So basically, my point about that is that there's math can be confusing at times because there's so many different ways to get to the same answer. Okay, so try and keep that in mind if you're reading something. You're going, I don't know how they're, why they're doing it that way. As long as you understand a process that'll get you to the answer, you don't have to worry about the details of somebody else's solution. It's when you don't really see how you could get to a solution that you have to kind of start asking questions and trying to understand someone else's method. Okay. So, and I think that's to step 2 of the 4-step problem solving model. So once we've understood the question, step 1, step 2 is for ourselves to have a process. So their process, was to add everything up, find 13% of the stuff that doesn't include the taxes, that requires HST, which is that number right there. Then they're going to add the license fee and the fuel fee. I hope I got that. Did I get that backwards? Okay, yeah, so we got it. Okay, so they added all those up, and there you go. So there's the price of the vehicle as they hand them the keys, more or less. So you notice it's quite a difference. He's out on the lot. Good old George is out on the lot, and the sticker price is $21,499. And then when he finally actually gets the keys, it's actually costing $25,389. Now, to be fair, the sticker may include things like delivery, and it may actually disclose more information than what we're giving it credit for. But the point of all of this is that when you're shopping for a vehicle, you have to understand that there are costs that may not be immediately disclosed when you're first looking at the vehicles. Okay, so when you're budgeting to buy a vehicle, keep that in mind, right? Now, I think for a lot of people that might be like if they're going to take a loan out for the vehicle, that extra might be like they'll take a loan out for the sticker price, and then maybe anything extra will be their down payment, right, for the loan, something like that. All right, so here's question one for the support questions. It's pretty much, question one's identical to the example where you're given a base price, a pretty high delivery charge, and then everything above is going to be HST, going to include HST, and then a license and fuel fee, which is calculated separately and added on. It doesn't have the tax. So I'll just leave that for you to work out. Now here's an example of one, and they have some of these questions in the book. So it says a Ford Freestyle, and actually they have a picture of the vehicle, and the price is listed somewhere. So that would be, you'd be browsing through the Sioux Bulletin, and you'd be browsing through the, the Thunder Bay newspaper, and you would see an ad for a vehicle. Okay, so that's what that would be. So there's your base price, and then they're giving you all the extra stuff, the delivery, the air conditioner, fuel, and then all of that has HST, but of course so does that one, the actual cost, $33,295. And then the things that don't include the tax are added on at the end. Okay, so now they're going to ask you a couple, there's a couple questions they're going to ask you here. What is the total purchase price? Okay, so you're gonna work that out. You're gonna find out what that is, and then it says how much more is the total price than the base price. So how are you gonna do a question like that? Okay, it says how much more. Okay, so one of the things to figure out is, do they want a number or do they want a percent when you're reading something like that? Okay, and that's step one of the 4-step problem solving model, right? Understanding the question. Now, if you're stuck on a question like this and you want to, and you're really not sure what it is, you don't want to go trying the problem and without being sure, how to solve it. What they suggest you do, if you have a phone, you have a device, it'll take photos. Take a photo of the question, right? You just need enough that I can see it. And then you can either email it to me, or you can send it as a private message on Facebook. And I can just say, what are they asking me to do here? And I can help you with that. Okay. So that's an easy way to do it. Now you could just say, key question, key question 14, part 2, subpart B. But then if I'm out somewhere, it'll take a little while for me to get back to you because I have to actually look at the question. So if you send me a picture, though, it doesn't matter if I'm sitting in McDonald's in Dryden, sitting in Walmart, or trying to find my way around Walmart with the renovations. Then I can actually just open up my phone and read it and send you an answer straight away. Okay, so and that's part of it, right? Don't plunge into a question unless you really have a good idea of what of the question, understanding the question. Step one of the 4-step problem solving model. Understand the question. And then once you understand the question, very often it sort of gives you a good idea of how you're going to solve it, which is step 2, figuring out how you're going to solve it. Okay. Now in this case, they're saying how much more. So they're not saying a percentage. They're asking for a number. So really it would be the total purchase price minus the base price equals, and then that would be a dollar amount, and that would be your answer. Okay. Now, what if you answered that with a percent? Looking at that, they don't say what percent, but they're not saying how much more money is it either. I don't think it would be wrong. I'd certainly give you the marks for doing something like that. So something like that, when they're not being very specific, you could certainly do it the way that you think it should be done. A percentage might say more. If it's 10% more, 15% more, that would give you an idea if you were out shopping for similar vehicles on how much to factor in. Okay, so let's look at the top of page. Whoops. Okay, so this is the top of page 32, and I think it's just going to have, it's going to pretty much ask you the same thing, right? Oh wait, used car lot. Okay, I think I've skipped something here. Oh, you skipped something very important. Page 31. Okay. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So let's have a look here because there's definitely okay, used car. That's kind of a strange that that's there. Okay, so just we'll just kind of come back to this one. Not quite sure why it's talking about a used car lot at this point here. Okay. Yeah, I think it's just probably just gotten switched around a little bit. We're going to talk about purchasing vehicles at used car lots a little later in the unit. Sorry, a little later in the lesson here. So this is great. So that what we've looked at so far is buying new cars. Now there are a lot of advantages to buying new cars, and we're actually going to look at vehicle costs. I think it's in unit. It actually comes in unit 4, right? Yeah, exactly. So unit 4 at the beginning of it, we're actually going to talk about the costs of vehicles because I think that probably just from your experience, having a new vehicle, there's some advantages in terms of maintenance costs because they come with pretty good warranties nowadays. They didn't always. There was a very dark time when even a brand new vehicle didn't have much of a warranty, and as a young man, I found out the hard way. I had some pretty horrific expenses on a brand new vehicle within a couple of months of ownership. And nowadays that just doesn't happen. They're covered bumper to bumper, and it includes electrical. I had some electrical problems, and just really not nice thing to do to someone who's just bought themselves a new car and kind of stretched a little bit on what they could afford. So I think the new vehicle owners understand that now, and or sorry, the new vehicle companies understand that now. And then now, but then of course you're going to pay a higher price for that. So there's some advantages and disadvantages. We're going to go into all those details as we look into the beginning of Unit 14. All right. So what we're going to talk about now is the this concept of depreciation. Okay, and it's you hear about that quite a bit. As soon as you buy the car, it depreciates. There's actually a commercial which shows that it's an insurance commercial, and what they're saying is that if your new car is in an accident where it's written off, all the other car insurance companies will give you the depreciated value, but our insurance buys you a new one. That sounds great, but I know I had full coverage on my first car way back in the 80s. So, yeah, it's been around for a while. So that's something, though, to ask your insurance company if they have that. Because it's true, right? You buy a new truck, something happens, and, it gets wrecked within a month or two of when you bought it. If they give you the depreciated value, you'll be out thousands of dollars. So a lot of insurance companies have that feature that they'll pay you the whole thing, but you have to ask. And I know one of the banks used to advertise that in their loan package, their car loan package, that if something happened to the car within a certain period of time, they would actually give you the whole thing. Okay. So Now, keeping in mind that a car or truck is different from other kinds of purchases, and it's if you buy a microwave oven, right? Chances are you're just going to use it until it breaks, right? Throw it away and then you're going to buy another one. Right? Nobody uses their microwave oven. Well, maybe they do, but most of us do that, right? We buy it, we use it. When it breaks, we get another one. Okay? But a car or a truck is quite different because it's a big purchase. They last for a long time, and they last long enough that our circumstances might change, right? During the time that we own them, right? So, you might sell your car or truck when you want to change vehicles, right? Maybe you're going to move. Maybe you have a different job or you need a different vehicle, right? If you have a little tiny Escort for driving around Sioux Lookout, that's great and it's cheap and it's fine. But then if you get a job where you're driving every day to Dryden, then suddenly you might want a truck, you might want a four-wheel drive, you might want something a little bigger. So that's how things change, right? So we have this idea that over time the value of the vehicle goes down, okay? And that's called depreciation. So this is about the middle of page 32. Okay. And it'll say here, it says North American made vehicles, and this is an important concept, in general depreciate in value about 50% over 3 years. Okay, so now when they say North American made vehicles, it's actually more specific than that because there's a way to look up the make and model of your vehicle and year and find out exactly what the depreciation is. And that has to do with the fact that over time, so when the vehicle is new, the depreciated value will be based on the manufacturer's reputation and maybe history with that model, right? But over time, the depreciated value will be calculated based on that specific batch of vehicles, right? So, for example, if there was a bunch of Ford F-150s that were made in a certain period of time, in a certain year, with certain options, and they last forever. They just seem to go and go and go, not a spot of rust on them, right? When rocks hit them, the rocks break, not the car, the truck. Right, so then the depreciation value will be much lower than say the next year's batch of F-150s where they change their process, they're using a slightly cheaper paint, they rust, a stone will scratch it even if the stone doesn't hit the car, a bird flies over and the car gets a dent, the truck. Some of them are, so there's some batches of vehicles, even from the same manufacturer, that over time we find out that they have more problems than other batches. And of course, different manufacturers have different reputations. For a long time, if you wanted a really high quality, everyone said to buy a Japanese-made car. And then North American cars started coming back a little bit, and now it's just a good thing for people to argue about what's the more reliable vehicle, right? So that's where depreciation comes from. So at the beginning, it's just kind of based on the reputation of the manufacturer. And then as the vehicle gets older and older, it's actually based on the history, the maintenance history of that particular make and model and year, and even batch number, right? So they're going to give you this estimate that it's 50% over 3 years. Now, that's the middle of page 32. So it says, what is George's truck on page 30 worth 1 year later if it depreciates 20% in the first year? All right. Well, here we go. Let's see here. This truck on page 30. All right, where's page 30 here? All right, so far. Oh, there's George. Okay. Now, the question then is, so there's his truck. There's his base price. Now the question is, do we calculate the depreciation on the base price, or do we calculate it on the final price? Okay. Now, if we think about it, the depreciation is actually the loss of value of the vehicle. All the other stuff, the delivery charge, the taxes, and all that stuff, that's a kind of a one-time deal. That's a cost of purchasing the vehicle. The actual price of the vehicle is where we're going to calculate that depreciation. So let's take a look here. Okay. So there's his base price, and we're going to remove 20% of the base price. Now, they did it in a way that works for them. They find 20% of the base price. That's the amount that's removed from the base price to calculate the depreciation. And so then they're going to do that, subtract the amount, the 20%, and then they get a number. Of course, the other way, okay, if it depreciates 20%, that means that the value is going to be 100%. That's where we started, minus 20% that depreciated. So the new value is going to be is 80% of the base price. So 0.0 times 21,499 equals, and so just grab our calculator, and we're going to go 0.8 times 214,499 equals, and I got $17,199.20. Okay, so there's a couple of different ways to solve this one. Okay, so what they did was they found 20% of the base value, they subtracted that 20% from the base value of the base price, and then they found the depreciated value. What I did was I figured, well, it's 20% depreciation means it's currently only worth 80% of what he paid for it, so let's find 80% of his. Right now, the only way that is a shortcut is if I actually just did that part in my head. Right, then it's a shortcut. Otherwise, it's exactly the same. But who knows? Maybe this makes more sense to you to do it this other way. Okay, either way, it'll work. And that's what I want to kind of make sure that it's clear that there's two different ways, perfectly valid ways of doing it. Okay, so, it's like if you want to get to the library and to look at, I don't know if you're familiar with it, when you're on Front Street, right, you go one way and then up a block and then back, or you go the other way and up a block and then back, right? There might not be a clear best way to go. Okay, so then, so the support questions here, they're going to ask us some questions, and it's pretty much the same as the example we did. Determine the depreciated value of each car. This is the base price, 20% in 1 year. 35% in 2 years. Now, the time is a bit of a red herring unless, in other words, you don't use it. It's not something you count unless they're saying per year. Then you have to kind of work things out. And in fact, it really, the way, it would be a much more complicated calculation. Okay, so don't worry about that. What you need to know is the base price and the amount of depreciation, and you just do that calculation that you just saw. Okay, so don't worry. This extra information is, we call it a red herring. It's not something that we consider. Okay, now sometimes questions do that. They'll tell you that the truck was red. They'll tell you that that the owner has two brothers, just to throw some extra numbers into the question, and it's your job to kind of pick out what's relevant and what isn't. Okay, so I think a lot of us start with used cars, and so there's they can be a little cheaper, and there are fewer fees, but there are still some things that have to be considered when you're buying a used car. So this is on page 33. So one of the things when you're buying a used car is you now know how to work out the depreciation, and there's websites online where you can actually look up values, and usually they don't even tell you the depreciation, they just tell you the actual value given certain parameters, right? So you can get that information. Okay, so if you're thinking about buying a car or truck privately, a good place to start is one of those websites that tells you what its current value is, and then you can look at whether the person's selling it for higher than that or lower. And then you can start negotiating. So when you're buying a used car, you have to have some things anyway, whether it's a private sale or not. And if you buy it from a dealer, they're going to kind of guide you through that like a used car dealer. Okay, so safety standard certificate. So your car, when you sell a vehicle, you have to have a safety test on it, right? It can't have holes in it, and it has to have a muffler, and there's things like that, right? So the brakes have to be good. So you go get it safetied, and as long as the vehicle's been maintained reasonably well, it's going to pass the safety. If there's big holes in it, that they have to be kind of patched up somehow, though. Drive clean emissions test, smog test, or whatever. Now we are exempted up in the north from that, so you may not actually have to do that, depending on where you are. Now do be careful though, because we're exempted here, but if you go a little bit south, then they're going to start making you do that. What surprised me because I was living outside of Ontario for a long time, when I came back and I brought my vehicle, and I had to have all this stuff done because I was bringing a vehicle from the United States. So I had to. It was as if I was buying it kind of used from myself. I brought it in for a safety, and I got it, and then I found out I needed this drive clean test, and I would have assumed that would be all part of the package, but I guess it's separate. So there's that, and then you may buy an extended warranty. You want to read those over carefully and not just go with what the salesman tells you, because the salesman will tell you it covers everything, and then it turns out it doesn't really cover everything, or maybe there's the maintenance has to be done by that dealer. There may be some, it can be a good deal. It can also be a terrible deal. There's different types of warranties out there, so look those over and ask people who've bought vehicles and bought warranties before. Now, it says HST sales at a used car lot. So what happens if you buy a private sale is when you go to register the vehicle, they want their tax right there when you register it. Okay, and they're going to look for a bill of sale. And the old, he sold it to me for $1 trick. From what I understand anyway, if the value of the vehicle seems wonky, they will or seems unreasonable, they'll just look up the depreciated value of the vehicle and charge a tax on that. Okay, so it does happen, and there is some tracking of that stuff. I know when I brought my vehicle in from the States and I registered it, I actually got a note from Ontario saying, "Hey, it's a sales tax on this vehicle that you bought." And then I had to write him back and say, "Well, no, I already owned it. It was just that I was just re-registering it, and I don't know why they thought I was buying it from myself." But I sent them some paperwork, and I never heard from them again. So that's the other thing, is to keep track of everything, keep records, just for a little while, just in case, you get asked some questions. Okay? And then, okay, so they're saying, so they're only saying PST, not GST. So it's just going to be 8%, so it's even smaller. And that's what you'll pay when you go to register it. Okay. So, and they want the money right then and there, or else it won't give you the new plate. All right. So here's an example. I just kind of go through this, and sorry, we have Winneman on this morning. How's it going, Rosanna?
I'm good.
Okay, great. All right. So, good to see you there, and. Yeah, so now, and this is not just to Rosanna, just to anybody, but we are putting these lessons up on YouTube, as well as in the archive here at WASA. So you can go to the archive, as you've always done, and watch the lessons. But you can also go on YouTube and watch them, and it may be a little easier for you with your bandwidth to watch them, because you don't have to download the whole thing. Okay, I usually get the lessons up depending on what day of the week is it. I might put 2 days worth of lessons up on Tuesday and then 2 on Thursday. But if there was one that you really wanted to see, you could always just email me and I get it right on there. So anyway, we're going through this example here about buying a used vehicle. So this is from an auto dealer. So keep in mind then that they're telling us here that it's only PST if it's a private sale. I'm not really sure why that would be. I guess the HST is there must be some extra costs to the government of having a dealer. Anyway, so the price, including certification, and that's a good thing, right? If you're buying something, especially if you're going to take it with you, um, in any long distances that we have up in the north here, you get the certification, any testing. So you're buying the vehicle, and they're guaranteeing you that you can register it and use it in Ontario. That's basically something that you really want to think about. If you're good with vehicles, or if you have a mechanic friend or relative, then maybe you could get one as is. But it's probably for most of us, we want to get it certified, safety tested, and e-tested, and then we know that all we have to do is go and get the license, and then it's ready to go. Now, they're going to say that the license fee is $20 and the fuel is $25. Again, they're not going to charge us any taxes on that. And then there's a 3-month extended warranty. This is kind of strange. A 3-month extended warranty for 1 year or 20,000 kilometers for $1,000. I think this is probably a mistake. Just an extended warranty for 1 year or $20,000. Okay, so depending on what that warranty covers, it might be worth it. Basically, what it is you spend $1,000, and then if anything happens to the vehicle in that first year, chances are that it'll be covered under the warranty. So, in other words, you're taking the risk out of it, because the risk is that you'll buy it, and then 2 weeks later, after you spent your $99,500, something happens, the engine has to be replaced. Well, that might be $1,000. That might be $2,000. The transmission needs, some big thing. So it's you're taking some of the risk out of it. Now, the other part of that, though, is that warranty you may have to go to a service place that's selected by the dealer or by the warranty company. It might take a long time, et cetera, et cetera. So you got to ask your questions. Okay. So the purchase price of the car with the warranty. Okay, so it's going to be the car, which the base price is $9,500, the $1,000 for the warranty, so it's $10,500. Now, because you're buying it from a dealer, not privately, they're going to charge HST on that, so that's your price with tax, and they found 113%. Now, and this is where you got to kind of use a little checklist as you're doing these. There's also the license fee and the fuel fee, which doesn't have tax. So you add those on at the end, and that's total drive-away price. Okay. So you can imagine then that if you were only budgeting for this part right here, it might be a bit of a shock when you come out, and what is it? It's about $2,400 more. Okay. So that's where making informed purchase is kind of key to this whole car buying, vehicle buying. Okay, so here's an example with Kristen where she's buying her car privately. So now we're only paying PST of 8% on it. Okay, so the car price is $8,000, and this is a kind of a typical private, right? Certification. So you're going to have to go in and have it safety tested and an emission test. You get it done at Canadian Tire. I don't know if I think Canadian Tire can do certifications too. The question is, can you get them both done on the same day? Now, you're going to pay HST on those two tests, but you're only, of course, going to pay PST on the price of the car, the base price. Right? So this is, we've done step one, understanding the problem, and now step two is figuring out how we're going to do it. So what did they do it in the text? Well, they added the two things that were subject to HST, added them together, found out 113%, and that's your emission and certification test, including tax. That's great. Now, you notice how they actually tell you what they're calculating. I'm maybe not so keen on the way they've done it with an equal sign, but the fact is that it's fine. They've told us what they're calculating. The problem is, and it's fine, if you just plunk some numbers down, somebody reading it, somebody marking it, may be able to figure out what you're doing, But if you made a mistake somewhere, if you use the wrong number, you might not be able to figure out what you're doing. Okay, so it is important to document what you're doing in your question. Now they are typing a lot. Certification and admissions test. I would abbreviate it. You don't need to say a lot. You don't have to do complete sentences. You don't have to write complete words. As long as it's understandable, then it's fine, right? You know, HST on cert. If you stopped it right there, I would probably understand exactly what you're doing, right? Or HST on above. Okay. But you notice that there's a number of steps here, and that's where you really have to be organized when you're doing these questions. So, and you'll see that on the feedback, right? If I'm telling you your questions are well organized, that's what I'm saying, that you've sort of laid them out in a way that's easy to follow. Okay. All right, so they've worked out what it cost to get the certification and admission test. They've worked out, this is the PST on the car. Now, that number is different, so watch it. Remember, we're working on 8%, which means that if you want to find the total price, okay, the total price, including PST, you're going to find 108%. Going to multiply by 108%. So do watch that, because we're so used to doing 113%, which is HST. So just be real careful when you're doing those calculations. It's just a silly little mistake, and it's a sort of mistake that's what makes math kind of fun, because you'll find that after you calculate it, you'll check the answer and you go, wait a second, and go out and go, and that's fine. The nice thing about math is you cross out the old answer, you plunk down the new answer, you don't have to change anything, right? If I made that mistake, I would just cross out that number, I'd cross out the base, the 8,640, and I just write the new numbers above and below. Okay, you don't have to rewrite anything in math unless it becomes such a mess that you can't read anything. Okay, you just cross stuff out, change numbers, erase things if you want. No problem at all. So then we have the total price, and that's, again, the kind of working through the different steps here. You've got the price of the car, which includes tax, right? And then you have the price of the testing, which includes a different tax. You add them together, and so that's the drive-away price. Okay. So again, it's a little higher, but not nearly so much. There's not the delivery fees or the taxes, the tire taxes and stuff like that. I noticed that they don't have tire taxes in any of these examples, so I don't know if that's... at the time there was a tire tax. At one time there was a tax on every tire that you bought on a vehicle. Okay, so, and here's another one. So you got a used car, and it's either sold privately, which means it's PST, or it's sold at a dealer, which means it's GST on the base price. Okay, so, all right, so you can do that sort of question. So when we look down now back at question, page 32, back at the question that kind of confused me, where are we here? Now you can see why, right? It's purchased at a used car lot. This is about the top of page 32. Okay, so now we can look at this. So this is a Ford Mustang convertible, but it still doesn't make a lot of sense, because it looks like they're giving you all of the options for a new car, but then they're telling you used car lot. So this question doesn't make a lot of sense. I think that we would just, what is the total purchase? If it was purchased at a new car lot, we'd probably change that to new car lot, because otherwise it doesn't make sense that they would give you all that extra information. Because what are you supposed to do with the delivery charge? If it's a used car lot, there's no delivery charge. Okay, and you don't pay this one, you don't pay that one. It's unknown whether you pay that one, depending on the used car lot. You see how this is really doesn't make a lot of sense as a question if it's a used car lot. So I'm going to change that in my book, and I'm making a list of all these little glitches here, and the next batch of these handouts will have fewer mistakes. Probably hard to say none, but all right, here we go. Um, let's see if we're back. All right, so it's just about time to wrap it up here anyway. Um, Now, here's an example of a type of question you're going to get in the, you'll get it in key questions. You also get it in the final exam. So it says, what is the total purchase price? Okay, so that's what they're looking for. Used car, given in the advertisement below. Okay, so now let's be real, kind of what do we need to know about it, right? It's a used car, so that's great, but we need to know if it's a dealer, right? We need to know if it's a used dealer, car dealer, or private. See? And we also need to know if it comes certified and emission tested, ET. Emissions test. In some places it's called smog testing, and I think I use that word sometimes. I guess I first heard about that in the United States. So the United States have drive-up smog testing. So this is a very strange thing. You drive to a place, it looks like a car wash, but actually there's a person standing there with a special probe, and you're supposed to leave your vehicle running, but it's sort of like a fast food drive-through, and you're kind of in the line and waiting, and your vehicle's running, and it's supposed to make sure that we're not polluting, but yet there's this big long lineup, and you have to sit there for a long time running your vehicle. It's a very strange thing. Anyway, so they call it smog testing. It's just to make sure that your car is not polluting, your truck is adjusted properly. It's probably good to get your truck, if there's problems with it, it's good to get it adjusted anyway, because it means it's not running all that well. If you fail the smog test, it means the emissions test. It means there's something not quite right, and it's not quite burning all those gases and stuff properly. All right, well, here you go. Let's take a look. Page 35. So it's a year 2000 Porsche. Ooh, that's nice. Model 911. Very, very nice. Okay, so this I think is when, price at $72,000. Well, I'm a teacher. I think I'll probably have to get a second job as a doctor or a lawyer to afford that. But it's all right. We can dream, right? So it has 59,000 kilometers on it. That's nothing. But we don't need to know all that stuff. Well, we want to know all that stuff, but what we really need to know, is it certified? Has it been emission tested? And is this a dealer or is it private sale? Ad type, private. So it's a private sale. So that's what we need to know, right? Private sale. That means that we're going to be paying PST of 8%, not HST. Okay, now let's read the details and maybe it'll tell us. Triple black cabriolet. I don't even know what that means. I'll have to look it up. Mint condition. When they say mint condition, but it has 59,000 kilometers on it, heated seats. Okay, well, that's important. Full 4-speed. That's important because I think that means it's manual clutch. So if you don't know how to drive one of those, you might need to get some lessons first. Full leather. Okay, that's important. Embossed headrest. Aluminum trim. Where is it telling me what I need to know? There we go. It says clean. That's great. Does it say non-smoker owned? No, it doesn't say that. So that's a question to ask. E-test and certification included. So there you go. So what that means is that you're going to pay your $72,000 plus PST, right? Plus what else? Plus your license, right? Maybe license. Let's see here what they say. Whoops. Go back a little bit. Oh, whoops. Okay, and I guess I should probably license and CE license, whatever. Anyway, your license. I think that's supposed to be a C right there. So you may have to go and get your own plates or something like that, which is not, that's $20, $30, depends, right? plus a PST. So you can work out all that stuff, but notice how they give you a lot of numbers in there, right? They give you a lot of different details, and really all you need to know is that it's a private sale, so you're going to pay PST on it, and that it includes the e-test and certification. So that means you just take it down to the Ministry of Ontario, the licensing place, with a copy of the transfer of ownership, and pay them the the PST on it, so you can work out 8% of 72,000, and that'll be fine. Okay, well I better wrap it up there today. So we'll pick. I think we're pretty much wrap this up. We might just yeah, that's it. So we're on key question 4. The key questions, we might take a look at a couple of those, but then we're going to go on to the next unit, and that's talking about leasing, which is another way of getting a vehicle. All right, so we'll see you tomorrow then. Thanks for participating.